For years, I kind of avoided pentatonic patterns because I thought, why do these 5-note scales when you can just jump right to the full 7-note scales? But what I failed to realize is the importance the pentatonics provide as far as a structure to hang everything else on. It really is foundational to the full 7-note scales. So I want to show you what I mean. I'm going to be strictly in the key of D major right now, where we have, and I'm going to use all L shapes for the chords. D major, G major, A major. And then for the minors, I'll do B minor, E minor, F sharp minor. So if I do those in order, D major, E minor, F sharp minor, G major, A major, B minor, I'm going to skip the C sharp diminished to go right back to D major. Accompanying each one of these will be a major or minor pentatonic scale. I want to deal with the majors first. D major, G major, A major. I'm going to do the pentatonic pattern where the root is on the bass string. That'll be the first note on the bass. Except for the open position, I'll be using my pinky on these. So here's the D major pentatonic scale, just on bass and middle string, 3 notes per string. If I put a G on the bass, do that same pattern. Put the A on the bass, do the same pattern. And then I can come back up here and end with a D an octave higher. Same pentatonic pattern, but depending on where you put it, it will be relative to different chords. So this is really cool. When you're playing a D major chord, a G major, A, D. I'm going to try to avoid the melody string for these patterns because you can add that in later pretty easily. All right, so why am I saying the pentatonic is good to learn before the full scale? Well, what is the pentatonic giving you, chord tone-wise? Well, when we're on a D chord, the pentatonic major scale gives you the root, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 6th, back to root. Root, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 6th, root. What are you missing? You're missing the 4th of the scale, and you're missing the 7th of the scale. Well, what if you want to plug those in? Well, this is where it gets interesting. You got the same pentatonic pattern for D, G, and A, but the missing notes, the way you plug those in is different for each one of these. So for D, the first chord of the key, often called the 1 chord, the missing 4th is right here. The missing 7th is right here. So here's the pentatonic. Here it is with the missing notes. 4th, 7th, pentatonic, major scale. All right. And, if you know the notes of D major and you know where your notes are, you need a D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. All natural notes except our Fs will be sharped and our Cs will be sharped. But when you come up here to this G pentatonic, which feels and looks the same as the D pentatonic, for the most part, what kind of 4 are you going to put in and what kind of 7? Well, the 7 is a similar kind of 7. It's called a major 7. And the 4th down here was a perfect 4th, but up here it's different. It's a sharp 4, a raised 4. So check this out. And I'm aware that in different styles of music, what you add in here can actually change and be outside the key temporarily, but I'm staying strictly in D. So down here, the pentatonic is the same as up here for G. D and G are the same, but for the full scale, this has a natural 4, perfect 4th. This one has a raised 4th. But the 7s are both major 7s. What about A? Same major pentatonic. Check this out. Now you get a perfect fourth, but the seventh is a minor seven. We hear all three of these. All three have the same major pentatonic, but this has a perfect fourth and a major seven. This G has a raised 4 and a major 7. This one has a perfect fourth and a minor 7. Well, what might be coming to your mind right now, if you've studied modes at all, these are different modes. And this is kind of a new use for modes for me. I just never thought of it this way before. All three have the same major pentatonic, but the filler notes, that's what changes. This is Ionian or major. This is Lydian or a major with a sharp 4. This is Mixolydian or a major with a flat 7. Back to the D. You know, to really have full command of the instrument. I mean, I grew up watching Eddie Van Halen, but I also grew up watching Joe Pass. Those two guitarists at an early age really affected me. And they were playing all over the neck. And then I would get my dulcimer and I would think, you know, I'm trapped everywhere. I always feel trapped. This can open us up. This is not stuff, I want to remind you, this is stuff that, like in the guitar world, they are teaching to kids who are very young. And I'm just trying to catch up with these 9-year-olds, you know what I mean? So, what about those minor pentatonics? It's a similar situation. You've got the B minor, E minor, F sharp minor. You've got the pattern where your root starts with your pinky on the bass, E, F sharp. Well, what's missing from the minor pentatonic? We don't have a second and we don't have a sixth. So, as you can imagine, it's going to come down to what kind of second do we want with each one of these? What kind of sixth do we want? Well, with B minor, you're going to use a major second and a minor sixth. And you know, whether you come to this through music theory thinking or your ear, it's still the same thing you got to know one way or the other. Some people say, well, I don't want to learn music theory. But the truth is, you got to know the idea, whether you're using your ear or your brain or whatever. So, major second, minor sixth. When you come down to E minor, you're going to have a major second, but this time you're going to have a raised sixth. For F sharp minor, you're going to have a flat 2 and the flat 6. I should be using the same words for these things. For F sharp minor, you should have a minor second, sounds Middle Eastern, and a minor sixth. Here they all are, and I'm going to mention the modes now. B minor, which is also known as Aeolian. E minor, which is going to be an E Dorian. That's what, yes, it's an E minor chord with an E Dorian scale. An F sharp minor chord, which is going to be F sharp Phrygian. So what you get out of all this is you find out that for the 1, 4, and 5 chords, we have major pentatonics. For the 6, 2, and 3 chords, we have minor pentatonics. And when you start adding in the filler notes, you got to keep in mind the modes so you know. For major, do you want the major 6? I'm sorry, with major, do you want the natural 4 or the raised 4? Do you want the natural 7 or the lowered 7? Depends on if you're in the 1, the 4, or the 5 chord. And with the minor chords, do you want the natural or the lowered 2nd? Do you want the natural or lowered 6th? Now, why? I always have a good why at the end. This one's different. This one's different because sometimes when you leave the key, the pentatonic changes. Nope, the pentatonic stays the same, but the filler notes change. So here's an example of that. If you're in, and then I'll stop after this, but this is really the key for getting into jazz and doing it right, I think. D major usually only has 3 majors: D major, G major, A major. What if you take that E minor and make it major? Okay, and we run into that a lot. Sometimes in the key of D major, the E chord is made major. Well, what would go along with that if it was minor? The minor pentatonic. And the scale, the full scale is Dorian. If you make this an E major chord, one way to think of this is you now have a major pentatonic. Okay. What about the 4th? And what about the 7th? Well, it depends on the chord here. If you have an E7 chord being thrown in the key of D major, you're going to have a natural 4 with a flat 7. Okay, so here's an example. D, this is D major. E major. G major. A. D. Let me do a different progression. G. A. D. E major. A. D. I'm not going to cover this topic right now, but the idea is when you get into the harder music where you now are deviating from what's normal in the key of D, these pentatonics support you as you move into that change, and practicing knowing what's missing and what to do with it, thinking of your modes, I think it gives us some much needed perspective. This isn't for everybody, but every instrument, there are people who get to this place, whether it's through composition, arranging, or improvisation. We need some dulcimer players who know where things are on the fingerboard. And I felt behind in a lot of this. I'm thankful that I've had this time to make some progress on this. And I'm sharing this with y'all because I don't want to be alone in it, even if it's just one of you. So that's it. Thanks. See ya.